Now, since the ouster of the Sheikh Hasina government in Bangladesh, radical Islamists have taken center stage with Nobel laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus at the helm of affairs. This Pakistan ISI team is led by Major General Shahid Amir Afsar. He's former Pakistan defense attaché to Beijing. They're in Dhaka, they're talking military training, they're talking enhanced cooperation. Does this mean ISI is trying to foment trouble on India's eastern borders with radical Islamists in Bangladesh? Joining me on India First, our Ambassador Veena Sikri, India's former High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Sushant Sareen is a senior fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. He keeps a hawk eye on developments in Pakistan and the region. And Professor Kamar Chima is a strategic affairs analyst who joins us from Pakistan. Ambassador Sikri, as someone who served in Dhaka, as someone who knows of ISI operations in Dhaka in the pre-Sheikh Hasina years, how do you assess this sudden enhanced military cooperation between Pakistan and Bangladesh armed forces?
Well, it is a very disturbing development. I think we have to recognize two things. One is that the alignment of forces in Bangladesh today are exactly the same as the losing alignment in 1971. In 1971, it was the Pakistan Army, it was the Jamaat-e-Islami. These two were together, they were backed by the US. And today you have the same alignment of forces in Bangladesh, and it is very disturbing because they're trying to create a pre-1971 situation in Bangladesh. All these developments that have taken place in the last few months, like restoration of visas for Pakistanis to visit, restoration of trade cargo, restoration of ships calling in Pakistani ships bringing Pakistani cargo to Bangladesh ports, and restoration of military cooperation, restoration of intelligence agency cooperation, as you have seen right now with the visit of the ISI chief. And this also is very reminiscent, as far as I'm concerned, of the years when I was in Dhaka, 2003, 2006, when you had the Prime Minister Begum Khalda Zia. And that time, this kind of cooperation exactly was happening, the same cooperation. You had the same kind of situation where you had Pakistani agents coming to Bangladesh and from there launching terrorist attacks in India. In fact, at that time, almost every terrorist attack in India had a Bangladeshi footprint because you had the Pakistanis coming across and then from using the hugely porous border between India and Bangladesh to go into India and launch their terrorist attacks, whether in other parts of India or in Jammu and Kashmir and other places. So for me, it is a very worrisome development because I've been very familiar.
It's a worrisome development, you say. Sushant Sareen, Pakistan may be surviving on IMF dole and bailout, but does the Pakistan military jihad complex have sufficient funds or sufficient funds and more to pay radical Islamists in Bangladesh to bleed India?
Gaurav, I don't think radical Islamists need a lot of money. What do they need actually? I think they are imbued with the Jazba-e-Jihad to a point where they're ready to die for nothing, and for the afterlife. This is a death cult. Okay, these are guys who crave death. So that's their game. The point is that what the Pakistanis are trying to do, the Bangladeshis must ask themselves whether their interests are going to be better served by aligning themselves with a country like Pakistan, which has nothing to really offer them except for terrorism, radicalism and stuff like that. Although in Bangladesh, there has always been an element of Pakistan in the Bangladeshi psyche. So I think we cannot completely ignore that. There is a Bangladesh in Bangladesh and there is a Pakistan in Bangladesh, has always existed.
And Muhammad Yunus signifies the latter.
Yeah, under Sheikh Hasina, the Bangladesh part gained prominence. Now the Pakistan part is gaining prominence. So that is one part of it. The second part, and I think much more critical for Bangladesh, is that they need to ask themselves that what Ambassador Sikri is saying, that what is called Naya Bangladesh today was Purana Bangladesh before Sheikh Hasina came in 2009. Yes. And they should ask themselves whether that Naya or Purana Bangladesh, whatever you want to call it, how was that performing economically? Was the lives of the people any better? Or under Sheikh Hasina, did the life of people improve? Did the quality of life improve? Was more employment generated?
No, but the point that you yourself raised, the death cult does not think about this life. They think about life after death. And Kamar Chima, according to okay, go on, complete your point, sir.
That happened because Sheikh Hasina realized that a cooperative relationship with India is far more beneficial for Bangladesh than a conflictual one. Now, if these current jokers want to turn that around, that's up to them. But there are going to be consequences of that kind of a move.
No, it may be their funeral, but their funeral could also lead to fires in our country, sadly. And Kamar Chima, according to a release by Pakistan's Inter-Service Public Relations or ISPR, a Bangladeshi delegation led by Lieutenant General SM Kamarul Hassan, who's Principal Staff Officer, Armed Forces Division of Bangladesh, he met Pakistan Air Force Air Chief Marshal Zahir Ahmad Babar Sidhu at Air Headquarters in Islamabad and discussed possible ways of improving cooperation of the air forces. Now, does this also include, as Pakistani media reports, possible sale of JF-17 Thunder? Where would the money come from, sir? Because Bangladesh clearly does not have enough money to even pay for electricity.
Well, I think this is for the Bangladesh to decide and answer that do they have money or not. But what the delegation that came from Dhaka, the senior army officials, I think that was a customary call which they had to the army chief, air chief, naval chief, and the other concerned quarters here in Pakistan. So I think this is one thing. Secondly, I think why India gets panic and what's the frustration in India?
India does not panic. You know, to be forearmed, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. It's not panic. It is being sensitive to developments in the region. It's not panic. Unlike Pakistan, that celebrates, the ouster of Americans only to burn its fingers in the years that followed, India is better prepared. There's a difference between the two countries. It's not panic.
So the question is, since India's access got compromised, you stopped micromanaging in Bangladesh, you started declaring Bangladesh an Islamic radical nation? What kind of
We're seeing what is happening on ground. You may close your eyes to ground realities.
When Hasina was serving your purpose, Bangladesh was a very good country for you.
She was serving her own purpose.
But the people of Bangladesh, you have started considering Bangladesh as an Islamist radical nation. Why are you not listening to the voices of the people of Bangladesh? If the people removed, the people of Bangladesh will decide. Why are you in panic? And Jay Shankar cribbing with Marco Rubio about what is going on in Bangladesh?
It's Doctor S. Jay Shankar for you. You may not respect your political leaders because, frankly, they deserve no respect. But, learn to respect leaders on our show. Our political leaders. We respect, we respect. It's Dr. S. Jaishankar for you, but let me bring in Sushant Sareen. No, hold on. Kamar Chima, you may not, there is no panic, but we don't even want ISI propaganda on our show. But Sushant Sareen, would you like to set Kamar Chima wise on...
Come on, grow up.
Would you like to set Kamar Chima wise on why radical Islamists rising in Bangladesh is a cause for concern? Because Pakistan may be suffering the same radical Islamist terror, but because it's killing others, they're willing to lose one eye.
Yeah, look, maybe Dr. Chima only knows the word panic, so he continues to use it time and time again. But the fact of the matter remains that India has very serious concerns because we've got our fingers burned in Bangladesh in the past. Whether it was the 1975 coup and what...
Or your hand was burned. Don't worry.
Can you keep quiet? When you were talking, everybody was... Wasn't it?
No,
I don't know if
I was
issue in your country, but at least learn to keep quiet. So, Gaurav, we were very badly affected after 1975 when pro-Pakistani elements took power in Bangladesh. And we've seen in Bangladesh a constant kind of a pogrom, a kind of a slow motion genocide of Hindus take place even after the liberation of Bangladesh. So that is one part of it. The second part of it is that in the period that Ambassador Sikri was mentioning, we had a lot of trouble, for example, in the Northeast. Northeast terror were given sanctuary in Bangladesh. They were given weaponry from Bangladesh. The Pakistanis were involved in that infamous Chittagong truck haul case where arms consignments for some of these separatist groups were caught. The Pakistanis and the Bangladeshi authorities had given a free run to radical Islamist terror groups, including JMB and others, which not only created havoc in Bangladesh, they were killing all kinds of people in Bangladesh, including not just minorities, including progressive Bangladeshis or real Bangladeshis, not the East Pakistan variety, which is currently in power. So there are those serious concerns. Now, we don't want to go back to that period. So obviously, are going to make a noise about it, but we are not just going to make a noise about it. We are going to do something about it. And I think the Bangladeshis should be aware that, like I said earlier, there will be very serious consequences if that is the road they want to tread on. Yes, it will be their funeral. Yes, it will create problems for us. But if the Bangladeshis, these idiots like that Mahfooj Alam or whatever the guy's name is, talking about annexing parts of India, what about the chicken neck? Bangladesh has plenty of chicken necks, which
Yes.
we can wring their neck and carve out completely new countries out of Bangladesh. If that's the kind of language they understand, then that's the kind of language we'll talk. So they need to smell the coffee. They need to wake up. They need to understand that it's in their best interest to have good relations with India. Now,
But the
if they are going
tragedy
to
is these radical Islamists do not wake up and smell the coffee, whatever jihad they want to fight. But Ambassador Sikri, Pakistan is surviving on IMF dole. There are reports that suggest that Pakistan may offer a soft loan to Bangladesh to buy these JF-17 Thunder fighter jets. Now, that would simply indicate that both are cutting their nose to spite their face. I mean, people like Kamar Chima may have money, but majority in Pakistan are unable to eat 1 square meal a day, and they want to give free JF-17s to Bangladesh.
Yeah, well, I think that one has to, of course, look at the role of China in all of this, because these aircraft are really Chinese aircraft, and they may be manufactured anywhere, but it's really China behind it. So obviously they're trying to play in troubled waters and, say that they can trouble India. But I think that we should be very clear, and our colleagues from Pakistan should be very clear, that it's the people of Bangladesh have already lost faith in this administration. And they're not happy with what is going on, because they have never voted for the Islamists. But today the Islamists are in control, but they are in control behind the scenes. They're telling Professor Muhammad Yunus what to do. They're telling him what to decide. They're making, dictating to him the decisions to be taken. And this is not an elected government. It is an illegal, unconstitutional government. All the people of Bangladesh, this is what they are saying. It's not that we are saying. It is reflected by what is coming out from the various political parties in Bangladesh, who are very keen that elections should be held as soon as possible. And all this business of an unconstitutional, illegitimate government taking decisions which they are not authorized to take, all this should stop as soon as possible. So this is this is what should happen in Bangladesh as soon as
Kamar
possible.
Chima, since Ambassador Sikri raised the point of China, if China were to fund this project, Pakistan would end up being in US bad books. Pakistan perhaps is unable to decide which Bap to do sajda to. China or USA can't do sajda to China and paibos or kissing the feet of China. Pakistan will have to decide.
Well, let me tell you, what India is doing, India has trying to not let the region connect. So, for example, if Bangladesh wants to connect that the South to revive.
But that's not true. Again, you are lying on TV. It's not India that's not letting the region connect. Pakistan is not permitting India access to Afghanistan. You can't give us alternate facts. No, speak the truth for once. You may lie to your audience. You can't lie to Indian audience, Kamar Chima.
Listen, do not disrespect people of Bangladesh. They know what to decide. Stop disrespecting Bangladeshi. You call everyone Islamist nation, religious.
Yes, Islamists will be called Islamists.
You call everyone radical Islamists. A country is a Muslim country. Shall we call
No, we don't call, I'm sorry, we don't call UAE radical Islamists. We call Pakistan and Yunus's administration in Bangladesh radical Islamists. We call a spade a spade.
Why you call? Shall I call you Hindu fanatic? If you will call the Bangladeshi people as religious,
nobody cares what Pakistan calls anyone. Garib ki koi nahi sunta aur Pakistan is samay ek kangal desh hai. But I want to bring in Sushant Sareen. I want to bring in Sushant Sareen. I'm sorry, if you call me a Hindu, I'm very proud of it. And no. Radical Islamist terrorists will be called out. The way Pakistan begs for money, your sajda and paibos will continue. But that is only what Pakistan is good for. Sajda and paibos. You just go kiss China's feet. But let me call Sushant Sareen into this conversation. Sushant Sareen, does India have reason to be worried considering China may be funding Pakistan to do this? Or does China, with Chinese people being killed both in Pakistan and Afghanistan, China should also beware?
I think the Chinese need to beware, because it's not as though the Islamists are very well disposed towards China also. China has serious problems with many of these radical Islamist groups. And even in Bangladesh, you will see a lot of these radical Islamists not having very good views about China. Okay, so far the Chinese haven't been targeted in Bangladesh, but how long before that starts happening? There was a time when the Chinese were not being targeted inside Pakistan. Now it's virtually an open season. Apparently now there are attacks taking place against the Chinese in Afghanistan as well. There's been one person who's recently been killed. So there are going to be serious problems, and the point is that at the end of the day, for most of these radical Islamist groups, they are not loyal to anybody. They're not loyal to China. They're not going to be well disposed towards the Americans. And if the Americans have indeed been part of the regime change operations in Bangladesh, this is going to backfire on them. They might have done it for their own calculations, but you know, the Americans have this terrible habit of letting loose forces they can't control. Now, if
So
they have
last 30 seconds that I have on this part of the broadcast, Ambassador Sikri, you know, Dr. Jaishankar mentioned that this was raised in his conversation with the US Secretary of State. What will that lead to, if anything at all, in your view?
Well, I think President Trump's administration, we are looking to see what is their opinion going to be, because we do know that what happened in Bangladesh in July, August of 2024 was something that was backed by America but implemented by Pakistan, and Pakistan has used the Jamaat-e-Islami as its conduit through the Pakistan army. Now, I think that President Trump has always been, even in his first administration, very strongly against Islamic radicals. Now, when he sees groups like Hizb ut-Tahrir coming in, a banned Hizb ut-Tahrir coming into as an advisor of the government, the Islami Andolan in Bangladesh, the Hifazat-e-Islam, and all these groups are not mandated to be part of any interim administration. So once again, I think the key factor in Bangladesh, for the people of Bangladesh, for the political parties of Bangladesh, whether it is BP, whether it is Jatiya Party, whether it is the Awami League, all
not
these
to fall prey to the radical Islamists who now rule that country. To all my guests, many thanks for joining.